Hi, it's Colin Daniel here from riffninja.com. I'm going to answer a question from one of my students, Byron. And Byron asks, how do I go from strumming to playing leads? Well, your first step is, if you're a really competent strummer and you know your chords really well, then I'm assuming that you know your chord structure and your chord theory really well. Not just building chords, but piecing them together into keys. What you need there is you need to know your chord scales, or your 1, 4, 5 in relative major and minor. So you need to understand what major and minor chords work together. That'd be one of the things, because you can't play a good solo until you really understand why each chord is where it is in a particular chord progression or song. And then the next step is to learn a scale. One of the best scales to learn is the pentatonic minor scale. That's extremely universal. All scales are the foundation of solo. Even if the player that's creating the solo doesn't know a scale, or he says he doesn't know a scale, or he's never studied scales, if the solo sounds good to the ear, the solo sounds pleasant, then it came from a scale. And you need to get your hands going. Your fingers need to be trained. And so this scale is really good for that. The A pentatonic minor scale is what I'm playing right now. And learn to have proper finger techniques with it too. And if you know a scale already, then the next trick is to relate the scale to the chord progression. And that can be a trick too if you don't understand your keys properly. One of the most difficult things for somebody going from strumming to getting into solos is realizing that you don't have to play the scale in its entirety, that you can take the scale apart, little parts of the scale, 2, 3, 4 notes like I'm playing now, to be able to dissect the scale and start creating rhythm with the single notes in the scale, because really all of your single notes in the scale have to line up with the rhythm, whatever rhythm is going on, whatever chords are going on in the background that you're playing over. A really great solo guitar player actually uses each chord change and he takes the notes out of that particular chord and he relates it to the scale, because all the notes for the chord can be found in the scale. For example, if you're playing an A minor chord here, you can find the A minor in the A pentatonic minor scale like this. In A minor, you've got an A, C, and E. Here's A, here's C, and here's E, right? So you might want to use those notes as part, or depending on what you're playing, as part of the entire solo, or part of the entire solo, because you could use that move and transpose it and move it to the next chord change if you want. See, it all depends on the song that way. So definitely learning to piece your scales, taking your scales apart and relating them to the chords is another step. Practicing your scale, learning a couple riffs. Any riff that you learn should be related to the actual scale that it came out of. And if you can't figure that out, then you have to study your scales some more, and because every riff comes out of a scale, is related to a scale. Here's a famous bass line riff for the guitar. It's a rhythm riff. See, that's another thing. You might want to learn a few rhythm riffs first. So single note lines that create a rhythm before you actually get into the soloing and the lead part. Other things that are difficult that you have to study are string stretches. Because if you just play a scale as it is, if you're a real raw beginner with it, you don't know any riffs and you don't know a scale, then your first step would have to be just learning to play the scale in the proper key in a particular chord progression. If you were in the key of A minor, then you'd want to play that A pentatonic minor scale over the song and listen to how all the notes fit into that chord progression. Depending on whether you're more of an ear player or whether you're more a visual player where you have to read a chart of notes, that would be another issue. For the ear players, I would just tell them, you know, listen to the scale as you're playing through it over a chord progression, and for sure you're going to start hearing certain notes that appeal to you more than others. And once you've got into the scale part, you want to start taking the scale apart, playing like 3 or 4 notes out of the scale. That's all I'm using right now, is just the scale. For expression, you need to learn slides, hammer-ons, stretches. Those are your expressive part of the scale, so the scale doesn't sound so clinical anymore, so dry. You need to do that too. Your best bet is to spend some time with your scales, moving them up and down the fretboard with a metronome or a drum machine, getting your timing together and getting your right hand and your left hand coordination. Those are other good steps to helping you take the step from your chords to being a soloist. And on that note, this is for anybody besides Byron that I answered the question for. If you're really interested, I just finished a course on this particular subject, and it goes through the steps really carefully, takes you through it, introducing you to some riffs and showing you how to incorporate the rhythm guitar into the riffs, which is really your first step. You can find out more about that at riffninja.com/rock and roll. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And if you're really serious about learning, check out other lessons that I have on riffninja.com too, if you like. Anyways, I hope that's given you some insight into taking the next step. See you soon.